The Abraham Accords may soon have a new member, Syria. Israel is talking to Syria about joining the historic Middle East peace agreements.
The surprising development comes as President Trump is wrapping up his trip through the region. Meanwhile, many Israelis are disappointed that he did not make a stop in Israel. Julie Stahl brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Israel is reportedly quietly opening diplomatic channels with the new Syrian regime after President Trump met with the new Syrian leader Ahmed al-Sharaa in Saudi Arabia and lifted sanctions against the country. President Trump extended an invitation to al-Sharaa to join the Abraham Accords, and he reportedly said yes, paving the way for Israeli security officials and Syrian regime officials to meet in Azerbaijan about the possibility of the Arab country joining the Abraham Accords. Regional players are interested in pulling Syria out of the grip of Iran, which propped up the former regime of Bashar al-Assad for years. Trump received a warm welcome from United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Trump signed more business deals for the U.S. In Doha, where talks are taking place for the release of the hostages, U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, told other mediators that the U.S. doesn't plan to force Israel to end the war in Gaza. Many Israelis were concerned by President Trump's meetings, deals, and offers to leaders that Israel doesn't have good relations with. But Eli Piepsh of the Israel Defense and Security Forum says he believes Trump is a huge friend of Israel, and Trump is just trying to project a strong American foreign policy.
That doesn't mean that President Trump doesn't value the interests of its strong ally, Israel. And I think President Trump has made it clear that values Israel as an ally, sees Israel and the U.S. fighting the same war against the same enemies.
Israelis in Jerusalem had mixed feelings about Trump's visit.
I'm happy he's in the region. I'm not happy he didn't visit Israel. I mean, you have to take it a little bit of an affront. I'm grateful that he got Idan Alexander released.
He's going to do big business over there, so I don't think it's got to do with Israel anything, because he's a friend of Israel.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell, is with us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what are the concerns about Syria joining the Abraham Accords?
Well, one of the concerns, Gordon, would be Syria's leader, and can he be trusted given his jihadist past? The question is, can a jihadi leopard change his spots? Al-Sharaa had a $10 million bounty just about 4 months ago on his head, and that was the U.S. And also, is this a version of what they call the Hudayyah agreement? And that was the strategy used by Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, and that would have a ceasefire until you're strong enough to fight your enemy. On the other hand, Gordon, there are pretty high safeguards for Syria joining the Abraham Accords. One of them would have to deport all foreign terrorists, for one. And so President Trump obviously wants to give Syria a fresh start by lifting those sanctions. And after 15 years of a civil war, it would be a welcome relief. And just a couple of other concerns that people have here in the Middle East anyway is Qatar. Who are they? Can they court the West, but they also fund jihad, as they have Hamas for years. And one other concern with all these arms deals, will Israel lose its qualitative military edge with all these arms sales to the Gulf states and Turkey? We'll have to see how that develops.
Well, I've got to confess that in my spirit, I'm actually disquieted by all of this. I think that Israel was on the verge of a great victory in a defeat of the ideology behind Hamas, Hezbollah, and it just seems to have shifted, and power bases that were behind the scenes for a very long period of time have now come to the forefront and seemingly changed the game overnight. Am I wrong in that view, or are we seeing just sort of a retrenchment and a pause so that they can rearm and renew the attack?
We will see. And I think with Saudi Arabia in particular, and maybe the UAE, the first signatory to the Abraham Accords, I think there is a certain sense, that they really do want normalization with Israel, and they want to make sure that these Abraham Accords continue. Some people think differently. They're the jury is out, so to speak, on Syria. Will they be transformed? And also Qatar. A lot of people have concerns about Qatar, the way they have funded so many things in the West with their sort of soft power, but continue their jihadist ideology.
Well, I was talking about Qatar. They were the funder of Hamas. And, you know, Iran's the funder of Hezbollah. And are we seeing an emergence of Turkey, of these ISIS elements in Syria? And are we just changing the names of the groups, but the ideology stays the same?
Well, we're definitely seeing a huge shift in the last several months, Gordon. And ironically, because of Israel's battle against Hezbollah and weakening Hezbollah and Iran inside Syria, that gave the opportunity for HTS, that was the jihadist group by al-Sharaa a few months ago. That's since been disbanded, but also Turkey was able to come in there. So it seems like in the Middle East anyway, Iran is on the decline, Turkey and Syria are on the ascendancy, and they certainly have different plans of what they want the Middle East to look like. But we'll see if all these diplomatic efforts, you know, will transform the Middle East and actually have many countries join the Abraham Accords.
Well, what's your hope for this, and what are the highlights of his trip?
Well, the highlights of the trip,
president's
certainly.
Trip, yeah.
Well, certainly an economic bonanza, Gordon, more than $3 trillion in deals. This is the art of the deal on steroids, major deals with companies like Boeing, also Saudi Arabia investing $600 billion in the U.S. And also, you know, as we've talked, there's some progress in the Abraham Accords. President Trump invited Saudi Arabia and Syria. And also, I think there's geopolitical benefits. This is greater U.S. sphere of influence in the Middle East and actually pushing out the influence of China and Russia.
Well, what's next for Israel now that Trump's coming home? What's the next step for Israel?
Well, there's big things, you know, that are happening right now, Gordon. First of all, Gideon's chariots. That's Israel's major drive to finally conquer Gaza and defeat Hamas. 3 divisions on the ground right now. A major change in strategy since October 7th. They're going to clear and hold territory. The other thing, the hostage deal. Will Hamas agree to Steve Witkoff's proposal to release 10 live hostages for an, but that would not include an end of the war or pull out of IDF troops. Will Hamas accept it? And then the big one, Gordon, the Iran deal. President Trump just announced on Air Force One, they've sent a proposal to Iran. Will they accept that? And we'll see what happens. And then finally, there's hope anyway for an expansion of the Abraham Accords with more countries joining in the next several months.
All right, well, let's continue to hold on to hope. Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem, thanks so much for your insight, and keep being the watchman on the wall.